Environment is a dynamic and evolving field. Its health must be considered for the sustenance of planet Earth. While not all complex environmental issues can be predicted, some known emerging issues is being cited. The environment plays a crucial role in the sustainability of life. All living things depend on the planet's resources to survive, and if humans continue to pollute and overuse these resources, they may be completely destroyed or depleted in a matter of years. Recently, a number of environmental issues have risen to new heights, affecting economies and policies worldwide. We all like to do our bit to help the environment. As people in all walks of life, regardless of their status and work position, has a lot to say about environmental matters. While viewpoints may differ, there is no denying that the environment affects every one of us. Problems on the environment is a vital issue to contemplate, a worth-seeking awareness from the forces that generate them. Environmental issues is a pervasive but vague concept, and we begin by clarifying the nature of these problems and how they emerge from humans' usage of the environment. Types of environmental issues. Just like many other countries, the Philippines is suffering from and contributing to several environmental dilemmas. From air pollution to the depletion of non-renewable resources, our country has gone a long way to recognize and address environmental issues within its borders. However, the risk for agriculture and food security due to extreme El Nino and severe tropical cyclones continually cause suffering and poverty to the lives of Filipino people. This is for the reason that our place is central on facing climate change disasters because of its tropical region on Earth. In this part, determining the environmental problems to the perception level of secondary learners is importantly being stressed. Conferring the present environmental crisis will require fundamental societal shifts in values, principles, and attitudes shaped through this learning material. You are being challenged at your level to initiate and take responsible of our ever and only habitat, our environment. The environment provides us with the resources necessary for life, from clean air and water to food and shelter, as well as the natural resources used in industrial economies. It serves as our only habitat to continue life. But when humans overuse them, environmental problems likely become the central issue in the world. It includes natural causes, yet most are produced by human activities. Environmental issues are defined as harmful effects to Earth and its natural systems due to the actions of humans. Although one can also occur from natural causes, human behavior has led to insight and environment corrosion. Meanwhile, in our country, the Philippines experiences numbers of environmental issues more on the climate change, deforestation, air and water pollution, poor waste disposal, decline of biodiversity, and now, the most talked issues around the world, the COVID-19 as environmental hazards belonging to biological hazard type. Predominantly distresses the health of numerous people in the country. Leading environmental issues in the Philippines. 1. Poor solid waste disposal. Solid waste management remains a major challenge in the Philippines, especially in urban areas like Metro Manila. Improper waste disposal, inefficient waste collection, and lack of disposal facilities are among the dominant concerns in the country's solid waste management. Unless these are addressed, the wastes generated from various sources will continually lead to health hazards and serious environmental impacts such as ground and surface water contamination, flooding, air pollution, and spread of disease. Solid waste refers to all discarded household, commercial waste, non-hazardous institutional and industrial waste, street sweepings, construction debris, agricultural waste, and other non-hazardous or non-toxic waste. The Philippines' waste generation continues to rise with the increase in population, improvement of living standards, rapid economic growth, and industrialization, especially in the urban areas. 2. Water pollution. Water pollution is one of the major environmental issues in the Philippines. The government continues to try to clean up the problem, implementing fines to polluters as well as environmental taxes. But many problems have not been addressed. In addition to this, during the dry season, many areas experience water shortages. Three, air pollution. As a recurrent problem in the Philippines, air pollution has been affecting 98% of the population, resulted to 4,000 deaths annually. Air pollution in the region of Manila has been linked to between 11,000 and 27,000 deaths in 2018 alone. Recently, Manila's lockdown, a response to the COVID-19 pandemic, is easing the Philippine capital's notorious air pollution levels. Concentrations of fine particulate matter known as PM2.5 have dropped to a third of their normal levels in some parts of the city, as road transport is curbed, businesses shut, and personal mobility restricted. The bigger challenge now is how to sustain the air quality, in which burning fossil fuel should be addressed. Although current pandemic is truly a catastrophic, it gave us the ideal picture of Filipino people being benefited with the quality of the air we need when clean sources of energy is utilized and not fossil fuel. Four, noise pollution. Sounds by all means pervade our environment. It can be produced by humans, yet can also be through other external source. But a sound annoying to one's ear is nauseating and would cause exasperation. This defined noise, which can be harmful, and is considered as an environmental pollution because it affects human health. Noise pollution can have a major impact on our lives and health. It can annoy us and disrupt our sleep, making it harder to work during the day and leaving us less focused. Sleep deprivation as a result of noise also increases the risks during everyday tasks such as driving. Noise can also negatively affect children's learning abilities. Prolonged exposure causes reactions including stress, which can contribute to high blood pressure, heart disease, obesity, and diabetes. 5. Climate change. Greenhouse gases are the main cause of climate change, trapping in the sun's heat and warming the surface of the earth. An increased ocean temperature is affecting the sea life and ecosystems habituated there. The rise in global sea levels is shrinking our land, causing mass floods and freak weather incidents across the world. If we continue as we are, the world will suffer irreversibly.
Right now, we're facing a man-made disaster of global scale, our greatest threat in thousands of years, climate change. If we don't take action, the collapse of our civilizations and the extinction of much of the natural world is on the horizon. The world's people have spoken. Their message is clear. Time is running out.
The amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere now is 50% higher than it was in 1900. And not only are we piling in more and more carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, but we are chopping down the forests of the earth at a great rate. And the forests themselves are the most efficient consumers of carbon dioxide that there are on Earth. We're going to destroy the ground because the soil of a rainforest isn't very good. We are actually tampering with the climate of the Earth and with the very atmosphere that we breathe. When we talk about the disappearance of the ozone layer, we don't know what will happen when the ozone layer goes. The world has become so fragile that we cannot subject the Earth to the tortures we can now inflict upon it. When we talk about the greenhouse effect, we're talking about something that affects the entire Earth. And these problems are life and death problems. They go to the root of the viability of the planet itself. If there's one thing that is biologically certain about the human species is that it is a human species, one species.
If we don't stop the destruction of our natural world, nothing else will matter. Simply put, if we don't protect nature,
The Philippines is highly vulnerable to the impacts of climate change, including sea level rise, increased frequency of extreme weather events, rising temperatures, and extreme rainfall. This is due to its high exposure to natural hazards like cyclones, landslides, floods, and droughts. Dependence on climate-sensitive natural resources and vast coastlines where all major cities and the majority of the population reside.
Biodiversity is a term that represents the total variety of all life on Earth. That's a big thing to sum up. Thousands of different world habitats, millions of different species, billions of different individuals, and the trillions of different characteristics they all have. The total biodiversity of our planet is immense, which is a good thing, because the more biodiversity, the more secure all life on Earth is, including ourselves. Only when life is at its most varied, vigorous, biodiverse, can we hope to thrive. We may not know it, but we need towering forests across 1/3 of the land surface to lock away carbon and keep the climate stable. We need millions of pollinators and billions of soil organisms and megatons of plankton to keep the food we eat in supply. We need strange plants deep in jungles to create our medicines, and coral reefs and mangrove swamps to protect the coasts we depend upon. Our planet's biodiversity provides all the things we need for free. But it will only do so if there's lots of it, and at the moment it's under attack. In the last 50 years, our activities have dramatically reduced biodiversity across the globe. We've snuffed out habitats, reduced populations of wild animals by 60%, and even driven whole species extinct. The number of lions in Africa has dropped by 65%. The number of individual flying insects in Europe has dropped by 75%. The number of bluefin tuna in the Pacific has dropped by 95%. Biodiversity is dropping everywhere and fast. This is catastrophic for nature and therefore ourselves. We talk about climate change a lot, but biodiversity loss is as important an issue. How do we stop this loss of life? How do we ensure that biodiversity, our planet's vital statistic,
6. Decline of biodiversity. Of more than 52,100 species described in the Philippines, more than half are found nowhere else in the world. The Philippines are also home to some of the highest concentrations of critically endangered and endangered species on the planet. Several endemic species in the Philippines have only 4% of their natural forest habitat remaining. At sea, unsustainable fishing has reduced fish populations, putting pressure on the ocean's ability to provide food and incomes. The nation is also an international hub for illegal wildlife trafficking, while the domestic exotic pet and bush meat trade continues to threaten biodiversity. Authorities lack support in enforcing national protection laws and are largely overwhelmed by the sheer volume of illegal activity. Poor communications infrastructure in areas where wildlife trafficking occurs compounds the issue, as citizens and law enforcers find it difficult to report violations. Additionally, persistent negative practices and the lack of valuation of nature drive this harmful trade. 7. Environmental hazards. COVID-19 as a biological type of hazards. We face countless environmental hazards every day. To better understand them, we can think of them as falling into these categories: physical, chemical, biological. Physical hazards are physical processes that occur naturally in the environment. These include natural disaster events such as earthquakes, tornadoes, volcanoes, blizzards, landslides, and droughts. Chemical hazards can be both natural and human-made chemicals in the environment. Human-made chemical hazards include many of the synthetic chemicals we produce, like disinfectants, pesticides, and plastics. Some chemical hazards occur naturally in the environment, like the heavy metals, lead, and mercury. Biological hazards, also known as biohazards, refer to biological substances that pose a threat to the health of living organisms, primarily that of humans. This can include medical waste or sample of a microorganism, virus, or toxin from a biological source that can affect human health. Currently, the Philippines is battling the number of cases of COVID-19 patients. The pandemic is a form of environmental hazards that has put our government to take big steps. Yet the disease does not only continue deaths, but has eroded the economy and is fast tiring the system. It has simply outlasted all the economic stimulus and the social amelioration programs. In addition, we still face major environmental issues such as climate change, solid waste disposal, declining biodiversity, and pollution.
Justin had an awesome weekend. Now that it's Monday morning, he's taken the good vibes into the office and surprising his work pals with donuts. Problem is, tasty treats aren't the only thing he's about to share. Justin doesn't know it, but he picked up a germ at a concert last week. Now he's sprinkled his donut box, his hands, and the office door with those germs. In real time, as Justin says good morning to John, and Ashley grabs her favorite Boston cream, those germs have hitched a ride onto two new hosts. With a rub of the eyes and a gulp, they're through the human front door and ready to get down to the business of making people sick. A little later, George comes with the mail. Justin offers him a donut, and with a tickle in his throat, turns his head to cough. Justin says bye to George and leaves more germs behind. George starts making his deliveries, and as you can see, there's no return to sender on Justin's leave behind. All it takes is a touch of the germy mail, and then a touch of the mouth, nose, or eyes for a person to become infected. When it's time to call it a day, Ashley brings the infection onto the train. She hasn't washed her hands in hours. The germs covering them make a pit stop on the grab bar before finding a home on some new hands. A few cars over, Justin is coughing again. In these tight quarters, that's bad news. He and his fellow passengers get off the train and head to their homes. The spread continues. But what if Justin's morning had gone more like this? A sneeze into the elbow, and then some hand sanitizer to be safe. A cough into a tissue, and a good job throwing it away and washing hands. Coworkers don't touch their eyes, noses, or mouths, no matter what. By following those steps, Justin's germs could have stayed away and slowed the pace of the spread.
This is SARS-CoV-2. It belongs to the family of coronaviruses named for the crown-like spikes on their surfaces. SARS-CoV-2 can cause COVID-19, a contagious viral infection that attacks primarily your throat and lungs. What actually happens in your body when you contract the coronavirus? What exactly causes your body to develop pneumonia? And how would a vaccine work? The coronavirus must infect living cells in order to reproduce. Let's have a closer look. Inside the virus, genetic material contains the information to make more copies of itself. A protein shell provides a hard protective enclosure for the genetic material as the virus travels between the people it infects. An outer envelope allows the virus to infect cells by merging with the cell's outer membrane. Projecting from the envelope are spikes of protein molecules. Both a typical influenza virus and the new coronavirus use their spikes like a key to get inside a cell in your body, where it takes over the cell's internal machinery, repurposing it to build the components of new viruses. When an infected person talks, coughs, or sneezes, droplets carrying the virus may land in your mouth or nose and then move into your lungs. Once inside your body, The virus comes in contact with cells in your throat, nose, or lungs. One spike on the virus inserts into a receptor molecule on your healthy cell membrane like a key in a lock. This action allows the virus to get inside your cell. A typical flu virus would travel inside a sac made from your cell membrane to your cell's nucleus that houses all its genetic material. The coronavirus, on the other hand, doesn't need to enter the host cell nucleus. It can directly access parts of the host cell called ribosomes. Ribosomes use genetic information from the virus to make viral proteins, such as the spikes on the virus's surface. A packaging structure in your cell then carries the spikes in vesicles which merge with your cell's outer layer, the cell membrane. All the parts needed to create a new virus gather just beneath your cell's membrane. Then, a new virus begins to bud off from the cell's membrane. Now, with the virus spreading in your body, how can you develop pneumonia symptoms? For this, we'll have to look into your lungs. Each lung has separate sections called lobes. Normally, as you breathe, air moves freely through your trachea or windpipe, then through large tubes called bronchi, through smaller tubes called bronchioles, and finally into tiny sacs called alveoli. Your airways and alveoli are flexible and springy. When you breathe in, each air sac inflates like a small balloon. And when you exhale, the sacs deflate. Small blood vessels called capillaries surround your alveoli. Oxygen from the air you breathe passes into your capillaries, and then carbon dioxide from your body passes out of your capillaries into your alveoli so that your lungs can get rid of it when you exhale. Your airways catch most germs in the mucus that lines your trachea, bronchi, and bronchioles. In a healthy body, hair-like cilia lining the tubes constantly push the mucus and germs out of your airways, where you might expel them by coughing. Normally, cells of your immune system attack viruses and germs that make it past your mucus and cilia and enter your alveoli. However, if your immune system is weakened, like in the case of a coronavirus infection, the virus can overwhelm your immune cells, and your bronchioles and alveoli become inflamed as your immune system attacks the multiplying viruses. The inflammation can cause your alveoli to fill with fluid, making it difficult for your body to get the oxygen it needs. You could develop lobar pneumonia, where one lobe of your lungs is affected, or you could have bronchopneumonia that affects many areas of both lungs. Pneumonia may cause difficulty breathing, chest pain, coughing, fever and chills, confusion, headache, muscle pain, and fatigue. It can also lead to more serious complications. Respiratory failure occurs when your breathing becomes so difficult that you need a machine called a ventilator to help you breathe. These are the machines that save lives and that medical device companies currently ramp up production for. Whether you would develop these symptoms depends on a lot of factors.